Tell me about it.
Gutsy moves. So we had this brainstorm about a podcast. Well, I had a brainstorm about a podcast, and it had nothing to do with the name, right? We are busy in our lives all day long. Multiple businesses, daughter at home, and I was having one of those moments where you're not sure how to incorporate everything. What do I do for marketing with the real estate team? What do you do for marketing with your consulting business? What do we do for marketing launching our private equity fund? Well, have you ever heard of the book, The One Thing?
I have.
Yeah.
Just once.
Just once. Well, maybe a few times. So Gary Keller and Jay Papasan wrote a book called The One Thing. And the premise of The One Thing is, let me see if I can get this right. What is the one thing that I can do today such that by doing it makes everything else easier or unnecessary?
We've answered that question a few times.
Podcast. The podcast gives us the opportunity to talk about the things that we know, to showcase what we've learned over nearly 30-year career path in real estate and investing and mortgage banking and money. It gives us the opportunity to talk to our clients and our people and our team members, opportunities that we have, and to talk about launching our private equity fund. So that's it, a podcast. And here we are.
But you forgot friends and family.
Friends and family.
Probably the two most important, right?
Yeah, yes, we do. Well, we travel a lot to visit them.
What was our one thing for 23?
The private equity fund.
We did it.
We did.
Sweet.
June 27.
June 27th, 2024. Co-investors. We have a launch party in Asheville. The launch party in Asheville is Thursday, September 5th, and that's at Brush Creek Pool House with our partners, Yonder Luxury Vacation Rentals. So it's going to look like a pretty good time as far as what we're finding so far.
So anyway, here we are, a podcast. And we also, in our travels, brainstormed about a name. And what are we going to name this podcast? Came up with this idea, several ideas, but this Gutsy moves, right? And we ran it by some of our most trusted partners and friends, entrepreneurs themselves and business owners. And the general consensus for the name was,
we don't like it. So we said, let's do it.
We don't like the name Gutsy. We don't think that it sounds risky. And we took everyone's opinion and really digested that.
I did.
And then decided that it really truly is what we do. We make gutsy moves. And Brandon also has a saying with this word gutsy, and it comes up when we're driving frequently and then gets translated into other versions of the story. But tell your gutsy move story, the bus driver.
So I was in West Virginia at the Gauley River doing which is the Super Bowl of whitewater rafting. And one of my good friends, Dave Weiser, we're on the back roads coming after the Gauley River, which is Class 5 rapids. It runs in the spring and in the fall in West Virginia, and it's pretty nuts. And all the back roads to get down in, they take you through by bus. And so as we're coming back after a day on the river, we're all beat up and trying to get back to camp. And the bus driver was making some gutsy moves. So in the back, here comes Dave with his one-liners, and it's gutsy move, bus driver, as we're running people off the road trying to get back to camp. So that kind of sticks with me and it resonates as we've been contemplating this name and gutsy moves as we travel on roads, no less. We kind of settled on that on our way to see some family in the Outer Banks a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and that saying comes up literally when we're driving. And then in business, when we witness and or do something ourselves, is, man, that was gutsy move.
Well, on the outside looking in, people, they kind of look to us quite a few times and say we're crazy. Yeah. Or what are you doing now? And where are you going? And who are you with? And, okay, you're calling me from ... So as we contemplated what we're going to do with Gutsy Moves, we decided that Gutsy Moves is going to be a little bit about our lives, a little bit about business. We're both entrepreneurs. We are serial entrepreneurs, as the saying goes. And we surround ourselves with like-minded professionals. And we hang out and we talk about life. We talk about friends and family. We talk about our next move. And typically that's real estate related. So if we're not talking about a Friday night football game, which is right around the corner here for Salem football. We've got a senior in Salem football. I should say you.
Well,
but
we do.
I understand.
Yes.
He kind of gives me high fives every now and again. He's a senior in high school, though, so I get it.
Yeah, you're not as cool as he is.
Yeah.
And a sophomore in college at Baldwin Wallace. So,
That's right.
Yeah, but Friday and Saturdays are filled with football over the next few weeks. So do you want to talk a little bit and tell our audience what you do, Brandon?
Well, I listen a lot. Some people say I talk more, and it's probably because I'm asked to give some advice on real estate. And so dating to October of 98, I had the opportunity to go to med school, or I had the opportunity to converge with a real estate career. And since I was technically on a waiting list to get in at med school as a graduate from Slippery Rock University.
People are normally surprised by that.
Well,
Med school.
Yeah, I don't know. I was a brainiac, and maybe I still am, but it's pretty peculiar how I was going to be potentially, cutting flesh, and now I'm making deals. But at this point, we fast forward from October of 98 to, what are we now, August of 24. So rolling into year 27 here in 2 months. And it's really boiled down to cutting my teeth and understanding the mortgage banking, mortgage broker world for 26, 27 years, and putting people in a position to be homeowners, investors. And as I've grown with my desire to learn more about real estate, I immersed myself and began doing these things really from about August of 2000 is when I bought my first house, and that's a few hundred deals ago. And now we're part of 9 different real estate partnerships, and we have a private equity fund. We immerse ourselves in property management, commercial deal flow, and residential deal flow. So it's pretty eclectic. And in fact, today I have a call at 1 o'clock with a group out of Dallas to get started with some ideas on how they're going to turn their fix and flip ideas into a long-term holding venture. So that's with 3 fellows that are in Dallas, and they're going to learn a little bit more how to scale and tax plan and financial plan and mortgage and real estate planning.
So mortgage banking morphs into corporate consulting.
And that's what corporate consulting is really all about. Yes, the 4th quadrant being estate planning. You have to have a way to understand how all of those come together, of course. And most people don't have all 4. That's almost a unicorn. Most people have a CPA, but they don't have a financial planner, or someone has a financial planner, but they don't have a CPA. They do their own tax returns. And so you don't know what you don't know.
I can't wait till we get some of our guest speakers in and involved with those different branches that you're speaking of to get their expertise on input with exactly what you're helping people do through estate planning and mortgage planning and all of those things.
Yeah, it's a combination of having done these things as a side hustle for many years, dating to about 2004. So for 20 years, I've done it as a side hustle, and then morphed that into corporate consulting in May of 21. We've grown that. Our client base has grown. There's north of 11,000 people on our email database, and we get constant feedback on how can we, and then finish the sentence.
So as a real estate professional for 23 years now, that I've been licensed and run the team, the creative ones, one of the things that you've done really well in the mortgage banking world is be different and solve problems. And where a lot of lenders, I'm talking about very ordinary residential transactions where sometimes there's a hard stop and you can't get something done at a traditional bank, or a mortgage lender doesn't have the product. And so it's hard stop, people can't move, the deal is dead, or what else can we do? So when we started working together, I would refer some real estate deals to you that would normally have died. And so I gave you this nickname back in the day, and I used to call Brandon Davis Daddy Deal Doctor. And I don't mean for that to be misinterpreted. It was, this deal is dead, and he would come in and revive it. And that's what I mean by that. And your ability to what I call speak banker has launched you forward into this corporate consulting world where people don't understand how to ask the question. Therefore, they get the wrong answer. And you have this unique ability to be able to speak banker to people in the banking world that helps your clients get through. And I just think that you're not going to brag on yourself for that, but it's one of your insane value propositions.
Well, tell us about the creative ones. Who are they?
Oh, cool. So the creative ones, speaking of entrepreneurial spirit, is a real estate team that I am they call it a rainmaker. I'm the team leader of the creative ones, powered by Keller Williams Shervanic Realty. So I've been in real estate since 2002. I got my license when I was pregnant with my first son, David, and I did not go to college. I had a neighbor, her name's Mary Roberts, and she recruited me into real estate. She kept saying, I think you'd be really good in real estate. And of course, she was running a brokerage in Salem, Ohio.
Why did she think that?
I don't know. Maybe my personality. I have no idea. We should ask Mary Roberts. She could be a guest.
You always say personality like that?
I know. So I thought, okay, well, I probably should get something. I should get an associate's degree. I should have a certificate, a license. What can I see myself doing? And I'm so very practical, and it was a detriment at the time because I didn't go to college, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I felt like that was a waste of time and energy, not having a direction. So I did nothing. Well, after this opportunity came along, I thought, sure, I'm pregnant. I should do something before I have the baby. And I got my real estate license and worked at this. I have a picture. We can pop it up maybe on the screen sometime of me pregnant and young and selling real estate. So my first year in real estate, I sold 4 homes. And my goal for the first few years was to make enough money to pay for our family to go on a family vacation. And I was great. And that's one of the beautiful things about career in real estate as a realtor is it can be whatever you want it to be. For almost 10 years, it was a part-time job where I was a stay-at-home mom and helped our family. And when I got a divorce and my life drastically changed, I went into real estate full-time. And one of my favorite stories is working through some financial documents and having a year in real estate the previous year where I made, I'll just say it, I made $20,000 that year, the most recent year when I was looking at a 3-year history. And the attorney that I was working with said, well, that's not enough money to live off of. And I said, yeah, I know. And she said, you should do some other things, maybe change some negotiations. And I said, I don't know. I don't really want to do that. And she said, well, how are you going to make more money? You're going to get what are you going to do? And I said, I'm just going to sell more real estate. And at that moment, there was no turning back, and it was do or die. And I launched into a career as a solo agent to build what is now the Creative Ones. Have you ever almost not done something?
I think that's a question that probably everybody asks themselves, and the answer probably for most is, well, it's a great idea, but I don't know what to do, so I'm just not going to do it. And out of fear and ignorance, they don't do it.
Yeah. So when people don't know what to do, they do nothing. It's one of my things I like to say. And yeah, I've been in that spot. We've been in that spot. Maybe some of our listeners have been in that spot, and I'll bet that the vast majority didn't do it. Whatever it was or is, they didn't do it. And people then sometimes regret that, right? Like you regret the things that you didn't do. You really never regret what you did, even if it was a mistake, because we learned from that, right?
Well, you learn from mistakes. I mean, that's how you learn.
Right. So tying this into our title, Gutsy Moves, and making gutsy moves, we want to talk about something that we almost didn't do. Can I start off the story? I'll start it off. Okay.
Sure.
So
First.
we were in one of our many homes. So I was standing in the kitchen, and we were faced with setting a closing date, I think, or it was rapidly approaching, under contract to purchase a home that we wanted to flip. And something major happened in the time frame where we went under contract to when we were supposed to close, and it was a cash deal, right? And what happened in that time frame in the middle?
What didn't happen? So the words that nobody really wants to hear, or the acronym that nobody wants to hear anymore, is COVID.
COVID happened.
And that phenomena where the world was shutting down from the Far East and China all the way across every pond and ocean and sea that you could imagine. It made it to the shores of the United States in March of 2020. And so we had written, what was it, about a $12,000, $13,000 check?
I wired, some cash for this 10% deposit. Wired. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, wired this money, and then it was time to bring in the difference to close, and it was a cash transaction. And so I was standing there in the kitchen, and I said to you, we. I feel like you were in the living room.
Oh,
whatever.
Maybe
it was an open floor plan. So I said, if we don't send this money to close, we're going to lose this about $12,000 deposit. Or do we send the remainder of the money, 120, 15,
it's about 115, 120, sure.
$1,000, which was, by the way, all of the cash that I had saved at the time. That was it, right? Do you move the money and buy this house with the world shutting down, or do we take our losses and just lose the 12 grand? And for one of the first times, and I'm usually all in on these kind of things, but for the first time as an investor, I was really questioning whether we should do that or not. And I'm not going to lie, I was leaning towards just take the loss. I'm just going to keep this cash. It's my little nest egg. It makes me feel safe, and I can sleep at night. And I don't think we should burn this money. And I've also learned with you over the years, listeners, if you don't want any encouragement to do it, don't ask Brandon Davis, because I said, what do you think we should do? And you said,
Gutsy move.
Do it.
Buy it. And we did. We took a walk down memory lane.
I did it.
And
we did it.
That's the 7903 Memory Lane, Canfield, Ohio, March of 2020.
And ended up being a real savior during that time frame when we were working, but not to the extent I could not open a door and show a home. I could, but most people, there were months where we were still trying to figure things out. So we were doing virtual tours and FaceTime tours and things like that, but it was just not as busy as we're used to. And thank goodness we had this project.
Yeah, but I think it's important to point out that it allowed you to stay focused and stay grounded on something that we both know very well, and that is real estate. And it's something that I know very well as it relates to renovation and contractor sourcing and material sourcing. And that's a challenge in a normal market. I think the coolest part of the whole thing is we bought it in March of 2020, and we sold it in the first week of November of 2020 to a veteran who enjoyed Veterans Day in their home.
Yeah, it was a really fun project. It brings up this saying when I have people and clients that don't want to go out on a limb like that. I don't know who said it to me years ago, but they said, scared money don't make money. And you also, what do you say? Put your money to work. It was just sitting there in a savings account, not working for us. So you like to talk about that a lot. But I think a lot of people would not have done it.
Well, not just a lot of people. There's a large percentage of people that wouldn't have done it, but you could probably count out 95 to 100% of people that wouldn't have done it. There's always going to be those 1%ers. So I'll take it.
You're out there. We know you guys are out there. People who make those gutsy moves, entrepreneurs putting it out on the line.
It was a calculated risk, right? So it's a calculated risk. You're going to own the real estate. You're going to own it free and clear.
Yeah, but what if?
Oh, what if, woulda, coulda, shoulda, never did a damn thing. So calculated risks, and calculated risks are things that we choose to take, I would say rather often. We are not afraid to make a move, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about gutsy moves, and we want to inspire folks to see the real estate world differently. When you can responsibly look at an end of a project and just know that with the experience that we have behind us over the years, individually, collectively, and then surrounding ourselves with the individuals and companies and businesses and friends and family that we consistently have.
And I know there's a lot of people out there that are, maybe struggling with some of the same thoughts. Do they do it? Do they not do it? And or how, right? How? We can talk about that. Yeah. So when you want to do something, then the next step is always how. And then when you answer that question, the next question is always how to solve your problems with. Are you an investor and you own 20 doors and you want to get to 40? Or do you want to break into short-term rental investing? Do you just want to figure out another way to make money as an entrepreneur and quit a 9-to-5 job? How do you do that? And those are some of the amazing topics that we're going to really dive into with this podcast that we do help people with on a daily basis. And back to my epiphany of this whole podcast, traveling around as much as we do, driving in our car from state to state, property to property. We have work phone calls where we do this thing in the car, like it's tag, right? So I need to make a call and then I have to wait for you to get off the phone and back and forth. That's how we do it. I listen to your conversations and I think, there's someone in my sphere that really could have benefited from hearing what you just talked about. So it's just valuable information, and we're going to bring in some other pretty amazing people that know a lot of things that I don't know.
I think that's the thing that I'm most excited about, honestly, is the relationships that we've built over 25, 30 years in the sphere of real estate in general and the entrepreneurial space that we're in. It's going to be great to have our guests come in and share some of those same things and give perspective on gutsy moves. And for everybody that's listening, it's a opportunity to take a calculated risk. It's an opportunity to learn from folks that have done it. And what better way to learn than from someone that's already done it before you and avoid the same mistakes.
Yeah. So we're going to listen. We're going to hear about their gutsy moves. And we want to hear about your gutsy moves too. I know there's some out there, and I've seen them on the outside looking in. We know about some behind the scenes, but there are some humans out there that are really doing some amazingly cool things.
So why should people listen? Why should people listen? What do they want to know? How do we convey to them that, the authenticity of what we're sharing is legitimate help? It's a mentor, it's a coach, it's something where we can implement. And a lot of people don't implement.
This is a little bit like the mouse in the pocket, which is a lot of how the podcast idea started, with these conversations and bringing value to relationships with explanations of how to do very specific things, like grow a business, like buy more rental units, like consider short-term rentals versus long-term rentals. This is the window. This is the mic into our conversations with people that everyone could benefit from that has any entrepreneurial spirit at all. And maybe it's someone who doesn't consider themselves an investor. It could be a person that's running a business, and should they buy their building or keep leasing?
That's actually a great point, because a business arguably is more valuable if you own the real estate. And I bring that up all the time, especially in self-employed client reviews. When I'm talking with them about personal financial statements and net worth, do they own any real estate? And if so, what kind? Schedule of real estate owned. How does that then fall into their tax planning and their estate planning? And people look at me cross-eyed.
Yeah, this is the mic into the car conversations. It really is of how you really do things. And it's so valuable. We're going to talk about people that are doing things at a very high level and doing them the right way. We have so many stories too. And we're going to talk about people that have done it the wrong way.
Like us.
True. Yeah, we'll share those stories too.
We trip and fall.
We do. Yeah. And sometimes we hang up the phone in a review with a client and think, gosh, what are they doing?
I'm sure they're saying the same thing because they don't understand.
I guess. Maybe.
And the more you talk and the more you listen and the more you surround yourselves with these ideas and these concepts, the more comfortable you become. And then that translates to making better decisions. And so eventually someone maybe makes a gutsy move.
They might. We hope. We want to help people do that.
I don't know. You're kind of fun to talk to as well.
Oh, thanks. Might be better to look at.